Hi, welcome to the Forecasting for Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brie. I'm a doctor of psychology, financial educator, astrologer, and founder of Forecasting for Success, a community of people improving their financial literacy to achieve financial independence. I blend my expertise as a former professor and financial intelligence analyst with the tool of astrology to help break down why you are struggling with specific money habits and the best way to form more intentional responses and choices when it comes to money, especially to help you feel more secure in your financial decisions and improve your money skills for building long-term wealth. Happy Friday, everyone. Today, we'll go over the current Venus transits and dive deeper into budgeting to ensure your money is set up for success in 2026. Although today Venus remains in the sign of Capricorn, tomorrow at 1:43 p.m. Central European Time, Venus will enter the sign of Aquarius. When Venus is in Aquarius, this energy supports absolute freedom and things that are eccentric or unconventional. This is highly intuitive and inventive energy, so it's a great time for generating original ideas and electrifying yourself and others to get after something unique. This energy is also very supportive of bringing together groups of people and communities. So if you have something that requires teamwork, Venus in Aquarius can be a good time when actioning multiple people working towards a goal. This week, Venus is conjunct to Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. When Venus and Pluto are conjunct, this really intensifies Venusian themes like self-worth and personal values. Remember that Pluto can trigger power struggles, though, so you may need to get creative to avoid conflict, or you may need to take a breath or pause and think through next steps to avoid unnecessary conflict. Necessary conflict is different. So if you need to get after something or someone, then just remember that this conjunction can make people compulsive. So maybe you can use that to your advantage if you need to catch someone off guard. The transit that I'm most excited about, though, is Venus being trine to Uranus in the sign of Taurus. When Venus is trine to Uranus, this is an amazing time to organize your finances and explore what can be possible with your money, meaning it's an excellent time to come up with new or better strategies or systems to overcome old financial patterns and habits that are no longer in your best interest and are no longer aligned with your personal values and goals. If you are currently struggling with money, this is also a helpful transit to reach out to other people who share your values and are modeling ways of engaging with their money that both work and inspire you. This is a very helpful transit to try new things and meet new people. So this is an exciting and dynamic transit and time to explore and improve possibilities. Since Venus and Uranus are in earth signs, this time is meant to be grounding and stabilizing while allowing you to explore, be curious, and have fun both when interacting with others and when trying out new systems that may work better for you and where you're trying to go, especially when that supports your personal financial values, like being more mindful of where your money is going and supporting ethical small businesses whenever possible, as two examples. Lastly, Venus is sextile to Saturn in Pisces this week. This energy is also excellent for organizing your finances, since this will help you reconnect with your values and better understand what you need to be secure. Venus being sextile to Saturn is very harmonious energy, and since these two planets are both concerned with security and stability, this week is an excellent time to be realistic about what is truly needed and what you genuinely need to do to align your money and money systems to reflect your needs and values. This will help you be more honest with yourself about what may not be working and organize your money and associated actions to be cleaner and straightforward. This is also a great time to take responsibility for your actions and ensure that your thoughts, words, and actions line up and are working together. Remember that being honest with yourself about the tool of money and how you need to use this resource is a form of self-care, both in the present and for your future self. So take advantage of these amazing transits this weekend to get clear on your values, what you want your money to do for you this year, and how best to organize your money to do the work you need it to do to support your goals. Now, if you've ever tried to budget and thought to yourself, ooh, I think I'm bad at this, or I always fall off after a few weeks, I want you to know right away that experience does not mean that you're irresponsible, undisciplined, or failing at money. It usually means the budgeting system you were using was never designed to work with real human behavior in the first place. Over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about why emergency funds are so powerful and why saving money can feel so difficult even when you understand what you're supposed to be doing. Today's episode builds directly on that foundation because budgeting is often where everything either clicks into place or can completely fall apart. This episode is about budgeting that actually works, not a rigid, perfectionistic system that makes you feel restricted or guilty, but a budget that supports your real life, your real goals, and the reality that you are a human being with emotions, needs, and changing priorities. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why most budgets fail, what works instead, and how to start building a budget that feels sustainable rather than exhausting. One of the biggest reasons why people struggle with budgeting is that most budgets are built on fantasy rather than reality. When people sit down to create a budget, they often imagine their best possible self, the version of themselves who never impulse spends, never forgets a bill, and never has unexpected expenses. That version of you might exist in theory, but it doesn't exist month after month in real life. Many budgets underestimate how much things actually cost and overestimate how much discipline it will take to stick to strict categories. They often ignore irregular expenses entirely, things like annual subscriptions, car repairs, medical costs, travel, gifts, or home maintenance. Then, when these expenses inevitably show up, people feel blindsided, even though those costs were always predictable. Another major issue is that traditional budgeting advice tends to rely heavily on restriction. You're told to cut out anything that looks unnecessary, to tighten your spending as much as possible, and to treat enjoyment as something you earn later. The problem with this approach is that restriction triggers rebellion. When you tell yourself you're not allowed to spend money on anything enjoyable, your brain eventually pushes back, and often in big impulsive ways. This creates a familiar cycle where someone budgets carefully for a short period of time, feels deprived, and then overspends out of frustration or fatigue. After that, shame can set in, and the budget is abandoned completely at this point. This all or nothing thinking is one of the most common reasons people stop budgeting altogether. There's also the issue of one size fits all advice. Rules like the 50-30-20 framework can be a useful starting point, but they don't account for differences in income, cost of living, family responsibilities, debt levels, healthcare needs, or personal values. Two people can make the same amount of money and require completely different budgeting strategies to feel stable and successful. Also, many budgets fail because they're disconnected from meaning. When budgeting is only about tracking numbers and limiting spending, it starts to feel tedious and emotionally draining. Humans are motivated by purpose, not by spreadsheets. If a budget doesn't clearly support the life you want to live and the personal goals you're working towards, it will always feel like something is working against you rather than for you. To build a budget that truly works, the first shift has to be in mindset. The goal is not to create a perfect budget. The goal is to create a usable one. A budget is not a test that you pass or fail. It's a tool that is meant to give you clarity. A working budget changes over time as well. It adjusts when life changes and improves with awareness, not with rigidity. A realistic budget starts with your fixed and essential expenses. These are the things you are committed to paying each month, like your rent or housing, utilities, insurance, transportation, groceries, minimum debt payments, and other essentials. When these are prioritized first, your budget immediately feels safer and more grounded. You know the basics are covered, and you're not constantly worried about falling behind on critical obligations. From there, it's important to give every dollar a roll without turning budgeting into micromanagement. This is where the concept behind zero-based budgeting can be helpful when applied gently, and why I provide this tool to my clients inside my financial literacy course. The idea isn't that every dollar must be tracked obsessively, but that your money should have intention. When money isn't assigned a purpose, it tends to disappear without meaning. When it has direction, you gain control without needing constant vigilance. One of the most important and often overlooked components of a sustainable budget is building in permission to spend. Enjoyment is not about budgeting failure, it's protective. When people don't allow themselves any discretionary spending, they're far more likely to overspend later in response to stress or burnout. Planning for enjoyment reduces guilt and supports long-term consistency. This is also where it becomes essential to think beyond monthly fun money and consider your time-dependent bucket list. Many people delay meaningful experiences because they assume they'll enjoy them just someday, often in retirement. But the truth is that some experiences are meant to be enjoyed at specific stages of life. Certain trips, physical activities, learning opportunities, or lifestyle experiences are different and sometimes better at younger ages. A well-designed budget makes space not only for saving for the future, but for intentionally enjoying life now in ways that align with your current season. This means regularly revisiting your budget and asking yourself not just how much you're saving, but when you want to experience the things that matter to you. Thoughtful budgeting allows you to plan for those moments instead of postponing them indefinitely or spending impulsively when the opportunity arises. Another key part of budgeting that actually works is accounting for invisible expenses through sinking funds. Sinking funds allow you to set aside small amounts of money regularly for predictable but irregular costs. This includes things like medical expenses, car repairs, holidays, travel, annual subscriptions, or professional expenses. When these costs are planned for ahead of time, they stop feeling like emergencies and no longer derail your financial progress. Not only is the structure of your budget important, but so is matching it to your personality. Some people thrive with detailed tracking and weekly check-ins, while others do better with broader categories and automated systems. Some prefer monthly reviews, while others need smaller, more frequent touch points. Budgeting becomes sustainable when it aligns with how you naturally think and operate, not when you force yourself into a system that feels unnatural. I often recommend that people check in with their budgets twice a month, once on the new moon to review your income and what you're attempting to expand or draw towards you, like increasing your retirement savings, and then once again on the full moon to review what you're trying to expel or diminish, things like bills. But this is just one example out of many. So remember to develop a budget that works specifically for you and your lifestyle. If budgeting has felt intimidating or frustrating in the past, the most important thing to remember is that you don't need to overhaul everything at once. The goal this week is simply to get started. Begin by reviewing the last 1 or 2 months of your spending with curiosity rather than judgment, and look at where your money actually went. Notice patterns without labeling them as good or bad. This step alone brings clarity and reduces anxiety. Next, identify which expenses are fixed, which are flexible, and which feel draining. This helps you see where adjustments will be most impactful without cutting things that matter to you. From there, choose one budgeting method to try for the next 30 days. Treat it as an experiment and not as a lifelong commitment. Automate what you can, savings transfers, bill payments, and investment contributions, so progress doesn't rely on willpower alone. And finally, schedule a reoccurring money check-in with yourself. Even a short monthly review can dramatically improve consistency and confidence over time. If you've ever felt like budgeting advice just doesn't quite work for you, there's a reason for that. Money systems are most effective when they're personalized. That's why I encourage you to take my free financial personality quiz. It helps you understand how you naturally interact with money and provides a personalized step-by-step plan you can follow based on where you are right now. It's designed to help you build systems that actually stick without guilt or being overwhelmed. You can find the quiz linked in the show notes, and it's a great next step if you're ready for budgeting and saving to finally feel doable. A good budget doesn't restrict your life, it supports it. It reduces stress, gives you clarity, and allows you to enjoy both present day moments and future goals with intention. If budgeting has felt heavy in the past, know that it doesn't have to be. With the right approach, it can become one of the most empowering tools you use. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and I'll see you next Friday. I want to thank you so much for joining me this week on Forecasting for Success and let you know that you can read the transcript for each podcast episode on my website, which is linked below in the show notes. I've also included the link to send me your money questions if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast at forecastingforsuccess.com/podcast. And if you're ready to get started on improving your financial literacy and developing your own personalized money plan, I encourage you to join my Forecasting for Success community, where I teach you everything you need to know about budgeting, how to choose your retirement number, how to invest in the stock market, and so much more. I go live in the community each month to check in on your progress and help answer any questions you may have. And it's a supportive community where you can also check in with other members and learn from their experiences as well. I hope you take good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next week.